Hi, everyone. Welcome to this bonus episode of the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture, and our podcast decodes both. We're welcoming back Cristin Culver to talk about a couple of, of PR mishaps and a win that happened this week. So let's just jump straight into it. Most of you have probably seen that Snowflake's CRO, Mike Gannon, was caught on the School of Hard Knocks Instagram account, giving his takes on how Snowflake is doing this year. And the company then had to issue an 8K to show that he's not authorized to be giving this type of advice. The brand also said that he's not a spokesperson for the company, so take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, just kind of wanted to bring Cristin in to talk about what happened and why it was so interesting.
Well, I loved it. A couple things here was I love that TikTok account. I don't know if
Hmm.
people have followed it, but this kid's a really good interviewer. And I had the impression, because I follow him actually, I had the
Hmm.
impression that everything was very staged. So this
Mm,
kind of
yeah.
mishap kind of blew that out of the water. I think it's probably like 50-50. He gets people um, to agree in advance, but this one seemed very man on the street, which I
Yeah.
loved. And then obviously how great for his brand that
Yeah.
I think the most viral tweet I saw about it was like somebody called him a broccoli haired Zoomer. And I mean, what a badge of honor. So incredible.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
but I think that it proves the point that like everything is on the record. Like
Hmm.
everyone is
Yeah.
press, nothing is off limits. And
Hmm.
like, especially if you're standing in Wall Street, literally on Wall Street,
Yeah.
and getting interviewed by some guy who tells you I have 17 million followers, like,
Yeah.
red alert, red alert. Um, somebody there on the street with him was like, no. And I'm going to assume it was like a very kind of like uh, smart and with it comms person who was like,
Yeah.
we're not talking to randos on the street. Come on, Mr. Ciaro, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he was like, the kid's so convincing. But yes, he was like,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
let me give you my 24-month forward-looking guidance. The street doesn't know, but now you know.
Yeah. I think, yeah, same as you. I usually think that these are staged, right? It's like same as one of my favorite TikTok accounts where it's like they go up to random strangers on the street in New York to ask what their apartment looks like, right? And
Oh,
then
yeah.
they get invited in, but like the house is spotless and it's all set up and nice. So it's like clearly you know in advance what's happening. So I assume that this account was similar. So the fact that he's just kind of just keeps on yapping, you know, is a huge win for, the TikTok creator. But then also, yeah, it just goes to show that like you may think that it's like, oh, it's TikTok. It doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. And it's like, no, it's a really big deal when you get caught saying something that you shouldn't, especially when people within your industry know that you're not supposed to be doing it. Those are the accounts that like I saw where they're like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
does he know he's not supposed to be saying this?
Yeah, it was really mind-blowing. I mean, part of me was like, oh, he was excited, but
Mhm.
if you're a CRO of a publicly traded company, like you got to be smarter than that. Let's see if he gets to keep his job. That was an
Yeah.
interesting snafu, but I also think it it goes right in line with something that I've been talking about probably for like the last couple years, which is just
Mhm.
like social media is such a hotbed of crisis comms. Like
Mhm.
one tweet, one video, and your brand is like embroiled in some big viral crisis moment. Like
Mhm.
obviously, our folks this summer at the
At
Coldplay
the
concert.
astronomer, yeah.
Yeah,
The
astronomer knows
astronomer
this
CEO
well.
and director of
Yeah,
HR.
you see it where like one customer can tweet something. It happened to Carta a couple years ago, or I don't know if you remember this, but like somebody had tweeted about how they felt that their data was being misappropriated, and it became this whole firestorm on the
Yeah.
internet. And then Carta actually like shut down a division of their business in order to
Interesting. I mean, we just saw it yesterday. Someone tweeted to Dylan Field of Figma
yes,
saying that their, customer service rep basically made it seem as if they could read the files.
Mm-hmm.
And like the customer service rep had, just sent a really poorly worded email that kind of looks slightly threatening, saying like, oh, based on like what I can see of like your files, you might actually need us. And then
Example.
Dylan Field stepped in and he was like, whoa, we're like looking into this. He quickly responded, was able to, put that out there and like talk about it very openly and transparently, which like really helped because it happened really fast and his own following was able to like come in and like show support. And it showed that he's not only social listening to what's happening on social media for his company, but that he's quick to take action, right? I think Snowflake here missed that a little bit because first of all, I think they were just kind of going into it like nobody really knows who Snowflake is, right? So it's like fine to get on like TikTok and like, talk about it. And so then their like comms department didn't really respond like quick enough. So then the original clip got 2.5 million views, whereas the Snowflake correction social video only got 550K views, which
I
just
didn't even
goes
know
to
they did
show.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's another that's another problem, right? Where it's like, okay, they filed the 8K, but then, they put out the TikTok, but it's not doing quite the same amount of numbers. So it's like you really have to act fast in order to try to get that lift. And the fact that it's coming from like, the company account and not like the CEO just shows like that difference in how tech companies or the smarter tech companies know to go to Twitter and try to address things themselves instead of just making it like a comms statement that comes out.
For sure.
Yes, comms obviously has to respond, but there needs to be bigger action happening, in my opinion.
For sure. And I think speed in the like memification of the internet and all that that entails downstream, um, smart comms now like does entail speed. So like in my
Hmm.
mind, I'm like imagining that the Figma team was like, okay, this thing happened, like, it probably interrupted their day, but they're like, all right, we got to handle this like ASAP.
Hmm.
Whereas I'm assuming Snowflake didn't have the same level of urgency about the situation. And then probably the lawyers were like, oh, we got to file this 8K.
Yeah.
SEC's mad at us. We are squarely in that zone where it's like one tweet is a crisis comms moment for brands. So it's fun to not be involved in it. It's fun to kind of like, I say fun
Yeah.
very loosely, but it's fun to watch it happen to other people. But maybe the takeaway is like people need to realize like, okay, like it could happen to you like
Yeah.
anytime.
So in terms of that, one of the through lines that I'm seeing on Twitter is a lot of marketing and PR people come out and say like, now you need to start training your executives on like TikTok and like what it means to be approached in that way. Like, is it you're just not going to speak to them at all, or is it that you're doing more of like the storytelling and narrative versus giving actual numbers? Like bringing numbers to this is like probably never going to be the smart call because you're mostly going to be wrong, right? Like either you're revealing too much or you're just like way off the mark. So it's just I would say just don't even have that. But yeah, I would love
That
your thoughts on that.
well, the CRO, he should have known better. Like also
Yeah.
that he
I mean,
everybody
it kind of
knows
sounded
you
like he
can
was bragging.
I know, and you can say no. You can say I can't answer that. And
Yeah.
like obviously I don't think that that Snowflake CRO watches School of Hard Knocks.
Mm.
So he wouldn't know, but like that kid is mainly interested in like personal advice.
Hmm.
So, and that CRO should know. Like, I'm not going to tell you forward-looking guidance for the next
Yeah.
24 months. Like, that was wild. Every executive should like have a good handle on what you can and cannot say. But I don't know. I'm not a CRO, but I know that
Yeah. But you're a comms professional. You know
totally.
what
But
you can and can't say.
I also, like, I've worked at enough public companies to know, like, okay, I probably shouldn't give, guidance for the next 2 years. But you know, maybe I'm just exceptionally forward thinking. I don't know. But
Yeah.
to me, that was
Maybe.
wild. I always joke when
Um,
these things happen, I'm always like, okay, somewhere someone is adding, TikTok man on the street to their crisis comms playbook.
I mean, you kind of have to, right? That's part of what happened is they got tripped up and they didn't have like an emergency plan set up for this. And so their comms was slow to pick it up. I mean, the CRO probably should have known immediately after he said it that he needed to go to the lawyers and to the, comms people to talk about it, so that they could deal with it appropriately. Aside from, obviously they were able to file the
Yeah.
8K. So good on them for that. The lawyers coming in to like, cover their asses. But, it does show that you are gonna have to have these plans. So I think that's like one of the huge takeaways for me was that like knowing that these man on the street videos are a possibility, that you should come up with some sort of, contingency plan for people, whether that's like full on media training them for
Hmm.
it, or like just basically saying no, you can't, you can't do this as like
Yeah.
an employee. The other thing too is that whatever your executives say kind of reflects back on the brand, right? Like even we saw that with
Totally.
Astronomer, right? Like that him allegedly cheating reflects back on the brand, right? And they were able to, turn that around with the Gwyneth Paltrow
Yeah.
spokesperson, bringing her in and like dealing with it humorously, but definitely getting rid of him and the director of HR. That
Yeah.
was seen
You
as
saw
like we're taking action.
for sure. And they put the brand first, which they should
Hmm.
have. I was like, that guy, he's not the founder. He was just a hired CEO. Like it was good
Right.
that they were like, okay, and brand, employees, customers who are thinking, what the hell? Like all those people are more important than the guy on the Jumbotron.
Hmm. Yeah. And then the last one is that speed matters more than getting things right.
Yeah.
So immediately when this happens, like companies and brands need to jump on it in order to make sure that they're, dealing with it appropriately. And that requires more than, one channel, right? It has to come across, everything. And I think honestly, the CEO should have also come out to like say something, because it shows that like the CEO is involved and like thinking about the company. That's what I really liked about Dylan Field coming out and like not only
Hmm.
responding to the tweet, but then like showing what steps they're taking to deal with it.
Totally. And I think they could have also like spoken the language of the internet in which they were kind of like in captured in, where like it could be funny if they came out and said, um, we love the creator community, big fans of School of Hard Knocks. We got a
Mhm.
little bit like loosen the lips on what we said. Um, filed an 8K, and they could have figured out a way to kind of like memify the
Yeah.
situation in a way to like neutralize it. I
Yeah.
always say, like, if you like fight fire with fire in these moments when you're kind of caught in a less than desirable situation, you can often like neutralize the situation.
Yeah. Agreed. Totally. Awesome. And then I wanted to talk to you about Morgan Wallen's concert announcement, because I thought it was a really good way that he showed that he knows his audience, and the people that are going to be going to the concert. He just announced his Still the Problem Stadium tour. And it's going to be a 21 show in 10 markets right now. And it's going to be in their football stadium. So one of the things that caught my eye was that I started seeing just pop up on my Twitter feed, all these footballs on the football field with like a little bear, and I was like what is this? So I went like searching, and it turns out that this is the little bear is like one of his like mascots. It shows like the planning that goes into this because they had to work with the athletic department's social media
Hmm.
teams to get this, the photo, and then have them all post on the same day around the same time, and then drop all these like clues while he was also posting on his own social channel a Morse code, that people, quickly figured out that means, still the problem. So people are like, what's going on? And so, in the age of Taylor Swift, doing Easter eggs, I think this was like a new way that he was able to do a similar thing with his fans, show that he knows them, and then also kind of create mystique around it to get people to figure out what's happening. And then
For
sure
sure.
enough, the next day he announces the tour itself, going to all those like football stadiums. And I thought it was just like a unique way to like announce a concert tour that's like very narrow and like niche because it's like it's only going to be at football stadiums, which kind of would be the demographic of his fans. And it's bringing to play a lot of stadiums that haven't been used as concert stadiums in a really long time.
Yeah.
So overall, I thought it was like an amazing rollout and a like perfect example of like knowing your fans, creating something specifically for them, and then building a tour around a special experience that only he's going to be able to provide. The second thing, actually, that I just remembered is what he's doing. He's doing 2 nights at the stadium, and each of the nights he has a completely different opener and like guest artists come and like play with him. It's letting people know that it's going to be a completely different concert even within the same city. So it's incentivizing people to buy multiple, nights and not just
Yeah.
come the one night. So Cristin, would love to hear your thoughts on
Well,
this.
a couple things come to mind when you're telling me about his rollout. One, I
Hmm.
love that he was playing around with like his version of an Easter egg. I think
Hmm.
Taylor Swift does that so brilliantly.
Yeah.
But like she shouldn't be the only one who can do that, but you have to
Hmm.
have a real fired up fan base who gives a
Yeah.
shit to who like would actually dig through
Hmm.
small little signals. So that's cool that it exists in a different genre. I was just kind of laughing thinking about like, oh, even like musical artists and their teams have to do the level of cat herding that like every other industry has to do when they're, getting ready to do a big announcement. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking about like them having to coordinate, but that's exciting for those schools and their stadiums. I think that that's a big trend.
Yeah.
Um, of because historically colleges have not really utilized their stadiums, and I'm seeing multiple stadiums do that for the very first time. Like Texas A&M just hosted George Strait. It was the largest
Mm.
concert it holds the record for the largest concert ever, like 105,000 people. Stanford just had Coldplay. So like some of these stadiums they've historically never done it. I just think it's
Mhm.
smart of these colleges to kind of welcome pop culture more into their physical spaces than they ever have before.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was what kind of what was so like unique about this, right? Because and I bring up Taylor Swift a lot because she was the
She's
last
the
artist that had
queen.
like a
Yeah.
huge, massive like tour with similar rabid fan base, right? And
Hmm.
so artists these days are always going to be compared to that just because that's what everybody knows, right? Like
Yeah.
I've mentioned before, Taylor Swift is monoculture now, right? So it's like
Hmm.
everything is going to get compared to that. And then Morgan Wallen, his album last year was like number 2 on Spotify, and the only person that dropped him off was Taylor Swift, right? So it's like he's always going to get those comparisons. And so the fact that he and his team obviously came up with this idea of like, let's go back to where the fans are going to be. And that's like football stadiums. We know that, a lot of, country fans are going to be football fans. He's a huge like college football
Hmm. Yeah, he's a big
like
Tennessee guy.
fan.
Hmm.
Right. So it's like, let's take it back to the people, right? So I love
For sure.
that's how it kind of came out. And the fact that, yeah, most of these stadiums have never, hosted a concert, or it's been like a really long time, goes to show that like there's that creativity of like thinking of how do we get like people to come out in a new, unique experience, right? I
For
think just
sure.
the fact that they're going to be doing it at football stadiums is going to attract a lot more people because just the novelty of it, especially the people that live there, right? That are like
Yeah.
huge college football fans
This
of
is
like
big.
that stadium.
For sure. There's a big lore building type situation for somebody
Hmm.
like Alabama. Like they
Right.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama doesn't normally pull um stadium concerts, so that's cool. One more thing I wanted to bring up about his announcement that I thought was interesting is he did a great hype video when he
Yeah.
dropped the announcement. Um and something I look at as like a comms person who's kind of like, okay, how are they positioning? How are they messaging? There was two things that stood out. He does this thing where he walks out with somebody at every concert. It's always somebody famous that everybody freaks out about, which I love. But I also think is strategic for somebody like him. Like he almost got canceled. Do you remember? He's had some
Yeah.
scandals.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think it is a smart play for him to pull in like big, well-known celebrities. He's had like Eli Manning and like just the biggest kind of like pop culture names you can think of have
Hmm.
walked out with him,
Hmm.
which to me is like they're trying to signal like these people support me.
Yeah.
And then there was in his hype video for the launch of the concert, there was a lot of interviews with his fans, which I think
Hmm.
was to serve the same purpose, which is like,
Yeah.
we love him, we support him, he's so great. Like, I just think it's another part of the effort to kind of like recast his image
Hmm.
as somebody who is like really loved and followed and has a huge fan base that like is ride or die for him.
Yes. On top of that, two things actually. One is in the video, one of the girls in there goes, I had never listened to country before. And like, he's the first country artist that I listened to. It's showing that he's kind of escaped the country bubble and is
Uh-huh.
now reached like more mainstream, pop culture. The second thing is part of the money that's being raised for the concert is going to his Morgan Wallen Foundation. So it shows that he is thinking about trying to fix his image because of those,
Yeah.
like, scandals that he's had.
Yeah.
Though it
I
obviously
look at
hasn't
it for sure.
affected
No. No,
his
he's
popularity.
making smart steps on his
Mhm.
like journey to becoming like universally known as like a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
People love his music, but I think maybe Taylor Swift is again a great example. Like, people like need to kind of love you as a person for you to have
Mhm.
that everlasting um like legacy. And maybe he's
Yeah.
thinking about that more now than he ever did before. I see it in like how they message in the things that they put in the videos and stuff.
Mhm.
I'm looking through like the professional lens, but I
Yeah.
think it's done
But
in a
that's
way
what
to just like,
works.
for sure, and like to get
Yeah.
the layman to be like, oh yeah, this guy is like awesome. Let's buy tickets.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so takeaway for me here is know your fans and start thinking about how you can create a special experience just for them based on what you know about them and like how you can tie your brand to, college football here, other stars that aren't wrecked in controversy to kind of build you back up and then doing the corporate social responsibility of like working with the foundation to like give back to the community.
Love it. Very layered. Very well done. Now I need
Awesome.
to find out when tickets go on sale because I want to go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Kristen, for joining. Where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at Cristin Culver. I spell Cristin Cristin. But yes, find me on X. Twitter is a great place for us to have fun and share memes and kind of like figure out what's happening culturally on the internet.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can follow me at Sonia Baschez or follow the meme team at meme team pod on Twitter, YouTube, and then at meme team podcast on Spotify and TikTok. Thank you. See ya.
Bye.